welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something really important, next-generation DNA sequencing, NGS. It's popping up everywhere now.
Absolutely. Medicine, research, agriculture, forensics, it's really transforming these fields.
Yeah, things like tailor-made medicine, spotting diseases earlier, understanding genetics on a whole new level. It's becoming fundamental to biotech.
And that's exactly why we need to talk about this, because it's so widespread. There's this growing concern about cybersecurity risks. A recent study in iAccess really flags this.
Right. We hear so much about the amazing potential, but this research, led by Dr. Nazreen Anjem out of the University of Portsmouth, it brings up something maybe we haven't focused on enough. So our mission today is to kind of unpack these cyber-biosecurity threats across the whole NGS process. Why does securing this tech and the very personal data it uses matter so much?
Well, first, I think it's helpful to remember what NGS actually involves. It's not just, one machine doing one thing. It's really a complex workflow. Multiple steps, different instruments, specialized software, interconnected systems.
Right, from actually getting the sample.
Exactly. All the way through to analyzing, interpreting just massive amounts of data.
And that complexity, while needed for the results, that's where the vulnerability lies.
That seems to be the core issue highlighted. Each connection point is potentially a place where security could be compromised.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about that power and promise side first. The study mentions its huge impact. Can you flesh that out a bit? How wide-ranging is it really?
Oh, it's incredibly broad. The study really drives this home. You mentioned personalized medicine, cancer diagnostics, but think about tracking infectious diseases too.
Yeah, very relevant recently.
Definitely. And basic gene research, which then speeds up drug development. And in farming, creating better crops. Forensics uses it heavily now too.
Wow.
So when the study calls it a cornerstone, it's because it's just so much faster and, relatively speaking, cheaper than older methods for reading that, fundamental code of life.
It really does feel like it's touching almost everything. Back to that interconnectedness that seems to be the crucial point for risk. Where do these cyber threats actually creep into the NGS process?
Well, the study suggests it's right across the board. From how the sample is handled initially, to processing it, analyzing it, even storing these huge genomic data sets, often in the cloud.
Okay.
Each link in that chain is a potential weak spot. And what's particularly interesting, maybe worrying, is how much genomic data is now openly available online for research, collaboration.
Which sounds good for science, right?
It absolutely can be. It accelerates discovery, but the flip side is it creates a much bigger target. The study warns that, bad actors could potentially misuse this open data.
Misuse how? Like data theft?
It goes beyond that, potentially. They mention things like targeted surveillance or maybe manipulating the data itself, or even, and this sounds quite extreme, using it for malicious biological experiments.
Wow, okay. That last one sounds intense. What specific kinds of threats does the research point to? Are there examples?
Yeah, they identify some pretty novel and honestly quite unsettling methods. One is synthetic DNA-encoded malware.
Malware. Written in DNA.
Sort of. The idea is you encode malicious computer instructions into artificially made DNA strands. When a sequencer processes it, that code could infect the analysis software, the connected computers.
Oh, okay. What else?
Then there's the potential for AI, artificial intelligence, to manipulate genome data. AI is getting so good, it might be possible to subtly tweak genomic info.
To what end?
Well, maybe to mess up research results, compromise medical diagnoses, or even create fake, misleading health profiles about someone.
Oh, yes, concerning.
And finally, they flag identity tracing using re-identification techniques. So even if data is supposedly anonymous...
Someone could link it back to a person.
Potentially, yeah. Sophisticated statistics might allow that, leading to major privacy breaches.
So this isn't just, your credit card details being stolen. This feels much more fundamental. Dr. Marinul Hassan is quoted saying, genomic data is one of the most personal forms of data we have. That really hits home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the study makes it clear the impact isn't just personal privacy. It could affect the integrity of science itself, maybe even national security.
Right, which leads to another key point from Dr. Anjem, doesn't it? That this whole field, cyber-biosecurity, is actually neglected and poorly understood.
Exactly. That's a really stark assessment. It suggests a major gap in our global biosecurity framework. We're racing ahead with the technology to read genomes. But the security thinking, the protections, they just haven't kept up.
So we've got this incredibly powerful tech becoming essential everywhere, But the security around it is lagging way behind.
Wow.
Why? Why has it been neglected, and why the urgency now?
Well, the study hints at a couple of reasons. One might just be the sheer speed of NGS development. Security often plays catch-up with fast-moving tech.
Okay, makes sense.
Another factor could be the traditional silos between different fields. You know, the cybersecurity experts might not fully grasp the nuances of genomic sequencing.
And the biologists maybe aren't thinking like security experts.
Precisely. Bioinformaticians, the people analyzing the data, they might not be totally aware of the cyber risks lurking in their software systems.
Right.
And the urgency. It comes down to trust, really. If we
Yeah.
don't tackle these vulnerabilities, public confidence in genomic medicine, in research, could be seriously damaged.
And potentially worse outcomes.
Well, yeah, the study raises concerns about misuse, surveillance, genetic discrimination. Even bioterrorism is mentioned as a possibility by Dr. Anjum if things aren't secured.
Okay, so the stakes are incredibly high. The study calls for action, coordinated action. Who needs to step up here?
It's a broad call. Governments, regulatory agencies, they need to recognize this as serious and make cyber-biosecurity a priority in policy, in funding.
Funding agencies, too.
Definitely. They need to specifically earmark funds for research in this cross-disciplinary area. And universities have a big role, developing training programs, fostering real teamwork between different departments.
You mentioned that interdisciplinary angle before. The study says computer scientists, bioinformaticians, biotechnologists, security pros, they rarely work together but must align. Why is that alignment so vital?
Because the threats live right at that intersection. A cybersecurity expert knows networks, but maybe not the biology needed to spot subtle data manipulation in a DNA sequence. And a bioinformatician knows the genomic data inside out, but maybe not the weaknesses in the software tools they use every day.
So you need both perspectives.
You need a holistic view, understanding the whole chain from the lab bench to the cloud server. Bringing those different expertises together is the only way to really spot the gaps, build strong defenses, and know how to respond if something does happen.
The study mentioned current protections are fragmented. Is that because of this lack of collaboration?
That seems to be a major reason, yes. Without everyone talking and working together, you get these isolated security efforts that don't cover the whole picture, leaving gaps.
It sounds like getting these different groups communicating, sharing knowledge, is step one. Does the study offer any actual solutions, though? Or just flag the problems?
It does offer some starting points, yes, while stressing that much more research is needed. Practical things.
Like what?
Like developing secure protocols for the sequencing process itself, right in the lab. Minimizing risks of contamination or tampering. Encrypting the genomic data, obviously. That's crucial for protecting it during transfer, during storage.
Standard data security practice, almost.
It should be, yes. And they also suggest using AI, actually, as part of the solution. Developing smart anomaly detection systems.
Using AI to spot AI-driven attacks, maybe?
Or just any unusual patterns, yeah. Things in the data or network traffic that look off that might indicate an attack is underway.
That's encouraging, seeing potential solutions laid out.
Yeah.
It feels like this research, by pulling together this single clear list of all the possible threats, it's creating that essential baseline.
Exactly. It gives everyone a common framework to understand the challenge, a foundation to build better cyber biosecurity upon.
It's good to know this work is getting support, too.
Yes, the study mentions funding from the British Council's UK-Saudi Challenge Fund and a grant from the University of Portsmouth. So there's international recognition brewing.
And if people listening want to dig deeper,
The paper is in IE Access, published in 2025, Volume 13. The DOI is there if you really want the specifics.
great. So, wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems clear. NGS is amazing, revolutionary technology. But it comes with some serious cybersecurity baggage that we absolutely need to address. And
That's the crux of it. Ignoring these vulnerabilities isn't really an option, given the potential consequences for privacy, for science, maybe even for national security.
it really does make you think, as genomic data gets more and more woven into, well, everything. What's our responsibility here? Individuals, researchers, policymakers, how do we ensure this incredibly personal data stays secure? And looking ahead, with this tech evolving so fast, what other vulnerabilities might be lurking just around the corner that we haven't even thought of yet? Definitely something to ponder.
Thanks for listening. To support our efforts, kindly subscribe to Biology Career Insights podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Amazon Music.